Today on Breaking News MMA Friends, are Instagram bots buying farts online? And what is the cost to humanity? I don't think that that's the case, but it's some of the stranger news I've heard in a while, that's for sure.
What am I excited for? Who's going to be the champion of each division at the end of the year? I think it's like always something that you sort of look towards. Will Jon Jones be back?
Well, apparently, the last thing I read was that he is ready to roll basically, and they're waiting for someone to sign the contract, be it Francis Ngannou or Stipe. However, I feel like we've heard that time and time again, and Jon Jones, I'll believe it when I see it, basically. However, I'd be excited to see him come back.
Yeah.
It seems like the only time we either hear that he's going to fight, or we hear that he's had a fight with his wife, or a stripper or something. But
or doing a hit and run on a pregnant lady or whatever.
Question for you though: if Jon Jones was to actually come back, which, all signs point to him wanting to, and the UFC wanting that to happen. I mean, Dana is talking about it happening, so that's a positive. I mean, Dana is not shutting the idea down. My question would be, though, if he did come back, the next, he's looked questionable in his last few fights. Like, that's the reality of the situation. He had a few close call, split decision victories. Arguably, the Dominic Reyes fight, I think a lot of people scored it to Dominic Reyes. The Santos fight was also close.
Myself included.
Yeah. Is it going to be a case of he was depleted and, he's too big for the weight class and this is his natural weight class, he's going to look better than ever? Or is he actually just having to face up to Father Time and losing a step and isn't as good as he used to be? That's what I'm interested in seeing. Like, is Jon going to be better than ever, or is he going to... Because, look, put it this way. If you're scraping by and getting split decision wins against light heavyweights, moving up to fight like the likes of Francis Ngannou and Stipe could go very badly for you.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's just one of those things you have to wait and see, and will he be good? I hope he is, because it'd be great to see, especially at a heavyweight.
Yeah, I mean, if you put all the politics aside in terms of like Jon Jones' personal life, I think as a fighter, we can both agree that having watched him for most of his career, if not his whole career, certainly in the UFC, he's a phenomenal fighter, arguably the best fighter that's ever fought. And I'm always excited to see him. I just wonder if he is the Jon Jones that he used to be.
It's either going to really push him to make him shine, or it'll really just screw him up altogether. But we'll only see, and time will tell, I think.
And what's your favourite pizza topping?
Favourite pizza topping?
Just sort of just catch you off guard with that cutting question.
Before I answer,
are
you a pineapple on pizza guy?
Look, I don't mind pineapple pizza, but I don't go to war for pineapple pizza. I'm not one of those psychopaths who kind of wants to fight someone over it. It doesn't bother me. If you have pineapple pizza and you order it, fine. But I'm not going to fucking go to war over a pineapple pizza. Do you know what I mean? I don't mind. It's fine. It's fine. But people get very weird about pineapple pizza.
Like you right now?
Well, I'm the one that brought this up. And you're going to ask, why did I bring up pizza toppings? Why did I ask you what your favorite pizza topping is, and where was that going? What I was going to beautifully segue into was, tell me your favorite pizza topping. I don't know.
Pepperoni with sous vide pineapple.
Pepperoni with sous vide pineapple.
Yeah.
Okay. So pineapple is an interesting one, as you said. It's quite divisive, right?
Yeah.
Origins of pineapple, though. Hawaii.
Yeah.
Max Holloway is fighting this weekend. Now, obviously, that won't be this weekend when this comes out, because this will have been shot, and that will now be the future, the past. That'll be the past, but we're living in the future now. So the reason that I beautifully segued into that, and I totally meant to do that, was to ask you, as we did last episode, what your predictions are for UFC 267, which has not happened now, but by the time this comes out, will have happened. So we are going back to the future. Back to the Future UFC 267 has now happened. However, we have no idea what the results are because we are living in the past. We're living in like purgatory right now, and we're just waiting for this amazing event. But all the viewers at home have seen this now.
Hold on, that seems really excessive. We're on a Friday night and UFC's on in 2 days.
Sorry?
I mean, yes, you're making it sound really exciting, but it's just...
You don't care about,
I know what you're saying.
You don't care about the fights, or...
No, we're not living in purgatory.
In a way.
Anyway, sorry. Back to you. I don't want to like rudely interrupt, and you had like a really good thing going.
I guess some of us are more passionate about UFC than others. It should be called MMA Friend and Guy who talks to him.
Well, it's called MMA Friends, not UFC Friends. So,
but it's UFC is what?
Mixed martial arts. The ultimate
burn. Okay, so
Bellator.
So hang on, just give me a sec. I don't remember which one. UFC is what?
Bellator.
You're gonna be so burnt when that comes out. You can't hear it, but that was a great sound effect.
I actually could hear it.
You're gonna be burnt.
That's really loud.
Anyway, so the amazing stacked card for UFC 267, which has not happened yet in our world, but in the world that this podcast exists in, has happened. I want to point out that last time we played this game, I won.
You did.
With the amazing prediction of Carla Esparza, which I totally guessed.
Hey,
I made it out at the time like I knew for something. I just made that up. I thought she would lose.
No, but seriously, how much is your trading card worth?
It was worth $7 when I predicted the fight when Carla Esparza was not yet the champion. It's now worth $37.
That's it?
Yeah. It's Carla Esparza, dude. It's like the reason it's not worth anything is because it's so obvious that she's about to lose the belt the second she steps into the octagon again. That it's not. It's literally. It almost is irrelevant that she actually won the belt. Unfortunately, I'm serious. It's like if she won the belt and it was like she was now going to go on a tear and start defend it. That would be a different thing. But she got the belt because it turns out that you win the belt if your opponent doesn't throw a single strike. That's what happens. So, I mean, if I went in there with Jon Jones and he didn't throw a single strike, I would win the belt. But what would happen if we rematched? He would fucking kill me. Yeah. Rose Namajunas is going to rip her fucking head off. I'm sorry. I'm actually a Carla Esparza fan. I think she was getting married after that fight, so she gets to now get married with the belt and with her face all intact. But I just feel like she's going to get fucked up by Rose in the rematch because, unfortunately, they're at a different level.
Do you think they had some sort of weird agreement?
I think it'd be quite a stretch to say that Rose gave up the belt on purpose because she didn't want to ruin Carla Esparza's wedding. But if she did, then she's a lovely person. That's a really nice thing to do. But I don't think that when you go into a world championship fight defending your belt that you make a pact with your opponent to preserve their face for the wedding that they have coming up. No.
It's a nice thought, though.
It's a nice thought. However, I digress again. UFC 267, Back to the Future, predictions. We haven't seen it yet. Everyone else has. Who do you think wins? Let's just start with the main event, Jared Cannonier versus Israel Adesanya. I say Israel. Cool. It's a clean sweep. I believe we're going to see, but I think the build of Cannonier is tailor-made to Israel. I mean, he's bulky, he's powerful, but he's quite slow. I think it'll be a Paulo Costa repeat, I think. Volkanovski, the Australian, versus Max Holloway for the third time. Predictions?
I think Volk wins the trilogy.
I think Volk wins the trilogy, but, and this isn't for the game, but just out of curiosity, do you think he's able to get the TKO win that he's predicted? I don't see that happening.
No. Not because he's not capable of it, but because Max Holloway has never been like dropped or finished or TKO'd. Max just has a very good chin.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that Volk doesn't have the capability to do so.
Yep.
I just think it's the type of fighter that Max Holloway is that won't happen.
Yeah.
He has the ability to take a lot of damage.
I agree. So we're on the same page for that. Next one, Robbie Lawler versus Brian Barberena.
Have we missed one?
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
I thought there was a big one on there.
Sean Strickland versus Alex Pereira.
I think it's Pereira.
Pereira, who is, as everyone probably knows, the guy who knocked out Israel in a kickboxing fight.
Yeah, Sean Strickland.
Sean Strickland. Okay, that'll be a kind of an upset for the UFC because they're setting up that fight with Alex.
Firstly, what are you?
Sean Strickland. So we're stuck up. There's no point doing this game if we just agree the same fucking thing. By the way.
But I think that Sean Strickland's just on an absolute tear at the moment, and Alex Pereira is still kind of to prove himself in the MMA game,
especially in MMA. Yeah, kickboxing maybe not. I need to piss. I'm just myself.
Okay.
So you're picking Sean Strickland?
Yes.
Sean Strickland. So this game only works if we pick different people, but we'll see how we go.
Okay, well, you can go first next time. So we've
Robbie Lawler versus Brian Barberena. Robbie Lawler.
Barberena.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Not just because I want to go different, but I just think Barberena's looking really good lately.
Yep.
And I've also trained with him.
Have you?
Yep.
Weird flex, but okay.
It is a bit of a weird flex. It's when what's her name?
When you
Misha Tate came over.
When you say trained with him, did you roll with him or?
No, Muay Thai.
Muay Thai.
Yeah.
Was he powerful?
He's not super powerful. I mean, he's only a welterweight.
Yeah.
But no, he's good. Obviously.
Would you let him babysit your kids?
Probably not.
So
yeah. Would you let Robbie Lawler babysit your kids?
Nah.
Would you let him?
Maybe. All right, so that's our predictions for UFC 267. Back to the Future. We'll see how we go.
Did you want to do any of the?
Nah, because it hasn't even happened yet. We can't spend the whole episode talking about fights that have happened in the past, in the future. It's just that gets crazy. Imagine our whole
in the past about the future when the future has already passed and we're in the.
If our podcast was set in a time that isn't the present, but we're predicting fights that have, it gets like it's not. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you have a DeLorean?
Pardon?
Do you have a DeLorean?
Time machine?
DMC DeLorean?
No.
I can say whether this might be an issue.
I have a Hyundai.
News?
News?
Yeah, MMA news.
Yeah, give me some.
Not Back to the Future news.
Give me some news. Yeah.
So Habib was inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame.
Yep.
Which,
great,
is obviously good.
Mm-hmm.
And he attributed the whole thing to his father, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
Israel Adesanya has offered $3 million if anybody can prove that he's done PEDs, steroids, or whatever throughout any time in his career.
Yep.
Because he's become the first fighter in the UFC to have 50 clear drug tests.
Right, and is that because he grew a breast?
Yeah. People said they were feeling weird about his nipples.
Yeah, they were calling him the last gyno bender. They were saying that. People were saying that. I didn't say it. I'm a big Israel fan, but he did have...
I am too.
He did have a breast.
Yeah, so people are...
He said it was a fatty, like a fatty deposit thing.
So people are saying like...
Which could happen. I mean, I've got two breasts, not from steroids, well, maybe the steroids in the KFC.
Can you keep... why is every man in here showing their breasts? It's making me extremely uncomfortable. Black's supposed to be slimming. What's going on?
How dare you?
No, about your tits, I mean.
My tits?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to... if you've got it, flaunt it, as they say. I've got a big old thing on me.
So yeah, after he did that, it was at a bit of a press conference as well.
Yep.
He also took a few stabs at Jon Jones because of Jon Jones has obviously had a few issues with
hiding under the cage. you remember that though, right?
Yeah.
He was hiding under the cage when they got there. It's like he might have just been checking out the structural integrity of the cage.
You could probably do that from the top.
Yeah, I know, true. But it's what does Jon Jones and a Sony A7S camera have in common? Battery.
Oh, nice.
Why'd you do that? That's psychotic. What have you? Who does that? Do it again. What the fuck was that shit? You're sick. That That was really weird, dude. Anyway, I think, like, obviously I'm a massive Israel fan. We're mates and everything. So, like, we go back a long way.
Yeah.
He's obviously been on the podcast before. So I'm biased towards Israel, and I don't believe that he's a cheater, even though he did clearly grow a breast. $3 million seems like a strange amount, though, right?
It doesn't seem like a weird amount.
I'll give anyone $3 million US.
And at this same press conference,
yep.
he bought himself a new jacket to mark 50 pass tests, and he's just like flaunting this jacket.
He might be talking about it a bit too much, that's anything. Like
it seems a bit weird, but I think he was actually like, this whole thing that he did was actually organised because he was the first fighter to pass that milestone.
Right, okay. Well, I mean, I personally believe him, but, that the growing the breast was odd. I think it just happens.
I haven't grown breasts by accident.
Mine, as I said, mine grow evenly to two of them at the same time, not the one and then the other one's smaller.
Maybe tall like a pectoral muscle.
Something happened, yeah. But anyway, I doubt anyone's going to prove that he's done steroids.
Yeah. Well,
how do you even prove that in retrospect anyway?
Well, not everything's been declared by USADA anyway, so obviously this is filmed prior to UFC this weekend with Volkan Max Holloway's trilogy fight. But prior to this, Max Holloway has said neither himself or Volkanovski are GOATs.
Yep.
And he's named Jose Aldo as the GOAT of that division.
Yep.
It's at this stage, look, Volk has 2 wins over Max Holloway, so it's easy for him to say that. But what are your thoughts on him naming Jose Aldo as the GOAT of that division?
I think it's typical Holloway style. Holloway's a very humble guy, and I think it's a very respectful move by him. I think Jose Aldo is certainly one of the best featherweights of all time. However, I think that Volkanovski is on the path. If not, I don't think he's there yet, but I think he's heading towards surpassing Jose Aldo. And I think if he beats Holloway decisively, especially if he finishes him, I think he will surpass that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
And unfortunately, as much as it pains me to say, getting knocked out in 13 seconds by Conor McGregor did tarnish his reputation somewhat. I mean, he'll always be a legend, but that loss was just so brutal and so quick that it just did put a little bit of a question mark on his legacy.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
I agree.
If Volkanovski went in there and
he has had some amazing wins since, though.
He has, and that's what I'm saying. He'll always be one of the greats. But I think that if you look at the run that Volkanovski's had, he's only had 1 loss in his entire MMA career.
Yeah, that was like his first fight, wasn't it?
Like his first fight, and it was at welterweight as well. And it was like in a car park in Wollongong. But if you look at the people he's beaten now, and if he beats, because I think that the other argument was that Holloway was the GOAT, right? So if he can beat Holloway for a third time, and especially if it's decisive, I think we can put him right up there. I think he takes the spot if he gets that win. And
you think he overtakes? Because I think Usman's currently number 1 P for P.
I don't know if he gets pound for pound, but I think the problem with Usman, right, is he's so good that he's recycling fights now.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say. I mean, so is Israel. They're lapping the competition, but I think it's hard to put someone as a GOAT if they're recycling their competition. I think if Usman can beat, the likes of Chimaev, if Usman can beat Chimaev and some of the new up and comers, I think we can consider him. But I think at the moment, unfortunately, because let's face it, Masvidal's not a wrestler. He's beaten Masvidal twice. I think his fights with Colby, were amazing. Masvidal's not really a challenge for Usman. Stylistically, it just doesn't. You know what I mean? Like Aldo was beating all comers. I think you can't be fighting the same people, and then
that's true.
Usman's amazing, but I think we need to see him fight some new up and comers.
Yeah, there'll always seems to be the way. There'll always be another up and comer that comes through and starts really dominating the competition. Like very much like Jon Jones did when he started.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe he started and he just really climbed his way to the top. We followed him pretty much from the start.
And he fought. I mean, Jon Jones, I don't think. Did he have any rematches? I think he just fought every new contender that came up, the whole time. I don't think he...
And he beat all the greats on the way up, like Lyoto Machida and, other good people.
He beat all the greats on the way up. Lyoto Machida, other fighters of that caliber.
No, it's like the only, classic fighter I can think of, that's been on the roster for a long time.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Sorry, he rematched. Gustafsson. Sorry, that was a rematch. And Jon Jones is one of those guys that gets better in a rematch. If you remember, that was like a very tough fight the first time.
Yeah, and then
because he was apparently he didn't even train. He was doing benders and stuff, and then he came back and just just got him down and basically smashed him.
Yeah, it'd be good to see if he actually trains for his fights when he comes, or if he comes back. Rather.
Exactly. What do you got for me?
Next, what have I got? So, Sean O'Malley said he could submit Habib, and fans would still complain.
I think that's not the craziest thing, though, because I think what he means by that is he's always going to be one of those fighters who, no matter what he does, people will always say, "Yeah, but," because he's got that personality.
He did say he could. He actually thinks he could. I get what you're saying, and I get what he's saying.
But did he not say
haters gonna hate? Essentially.
But is he not saying if I was to hypothetically submit him, people would still, or are you saying I could actually submit him?
Yeah, he said I could actually submit him.
But I don't think he meant that. I think he meant if I did, then people would still.
I don't know, it's just sort of a weird flex because
I could submit Habib, dude.
What? You think you could submit Habib?
On a serious note, if my life depended on it and we were locked in a room and
no, did you just say?
I would just see white, dude.
Why would you be locked?
My mentality is different. I'd just see white and I wouldn't be able to stop. I wouldn't even see a person.
You would see white because he would finish you that quickly.
I wouldn't even see a person. I'd just go fucking skits and rip his head off. If it came down to it, if I had to. If it was in the octagon, sure. But my mentality is just different. I'm crazy like that. Like if I need, sometimes when I'm like doing boxing, I say to my coach, I'm like, I'm seeing everything in slow motion. Put me in there with anyone in the world. I'll beat anyone in the world.
Why am I getting unnecessarily angry about this?
Because your mentality's not like mine.
Okay, I'm just going to move on to the next one.
I can't lose.
I'm going to move on to the next one. I'm not talking about you beating the best fighters in the world.
I'm just saying if my life depended on it.
Yeah. If your life depended on it, which means it would also be Habib's life depending on it because you're saying you would kill him.
I'd rip his fucking head off. No, I'm not going to laugh this time. It's not funny. I'd rip his fucking head off.
Yeah. So next one is Cowboy Cerrone says he wants to set records in the UFC that people can't reach.
Most fights cancelled in a month.
Done. That people can't reach once he's retired. I personally think he's over the hump. What do you reckon?
Well, I saw recently on social media that his wife had got a pet monkey. And I think that once you're out in Jackson Hole with your kids, one of them's called Danger, and you got a pet monkey, you might be ready for retirement. You know what I mean? I think he's ready to just go wakeboarding or do whatever he does and just hang it up. I think he should have probably thought about that after he got knocked out by Conor. I definitely think he's over the hump.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can have it until I'm driving. Can I? I had 3 when I first got here.
From 6
So just don't say you were standing directly in front of the light and casting a shadow across.
So what time did I get? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 4 beers in 4 hours. Is that normal? Yeah,
that's fine.
The first hour and 1 every hour after that, right?
I think so. Plus, my mentality is different. I can't drink drive. If I need to, like, if the cops breathalyze me and I need to not blow over, I can't blow over.
Yeah.
No, I do think Cowboy Cerrone, as much as he's a fan favorite, I do think it's worth him considering hanging it up because he just doesn't seem to have the. There's just something missing, right? Like when a fighter gets to a certain age, they're missing a step, and I think he's just getting beaten to the punch, like literally.
Okay, so do you have any just straight MMA related news before I?
Not news, just a few fights to talk about, but no news specifically.
Okay, I'm going to move on to some funny stories.
Sure.
I'm going to have to read this one off the computer screen here. So a minor celebrity / influencer called Stephanie Matto has ended up in hospital after eating too many beans to sell farts in a jar online.
I think this is just the Brazilian girl that held farts in for too long.
Well, I didn't read that, but what I read was she's been selling her farts for $1,000 a piece and has made over $200,000 in 2 months purely feasting on high fiber foods. that diet has actually led to her being admitted to hospital when she thought she was actually having a heart attack.
The one I was thinking was there was a lady in Brazil who held her farts in for too long and then got hospitalised.
Well, she's not holding her farts in; she's just bottling them for $1,000 a jar.
It's strange to me that exists.
It's weird. That's a weird thing because it doesn't matter how good looking a girl is,
Or a guy.
It doesn't matter if you're a guy, a girl, undisclosed, non-binary.
Yeah.
If you're farting into a jar, it's gonna stink, no matter what you identify.
So
as.
this woman was hospitalized because she was eating too much fibrous food. Is that the?
Yeah, she changed to a high fiber diet so she could bottle her farts.
Sorry, how much did she make?
$200K
A month?
No, in 2 months. She made $100K a month.
Who's buying this stuff? Who's buying the farts?
I don't know.
Like, is there a website to buy the farts, or is it like a black market thing? It's not illegal. It's just weird.
Yeah, I know. It's not illegal.
It's one of those things that's not illegal, but if your work found out about it, it would be still weird, right?
Yeah, but the type of people that are buying this, when you go onto those fake websites and you get all those weird, creepy, like, I don't know if they're bot accounts or not, but they always say the same thing, like, you are so beautiful, I want to marry you, etc., and it's really creepy, and you get really worried about the whole human race just by basing it on 9 people that make weird comments.
Yep.
Are those the type of people that are buying farts online?
No, I don't think. I don't think Instagram bots are buying farts online. No, if that's what you're asking me, I don't think that's the case.
Yeah, but who's the type of person who would buy a fart?
Today on Breaking News, MMA friends, are Instagram bots buying farts online, and what is the cost to humanity? I don't think that that's the case, but it's some of the stranger news I've heard in a while. That's for sure.
Yeah. Secondly, a thief has stolen a phone out of a woman's handbag who is 4'9", and she's turned out to be an MMA fighter, allegedly.
The woman's 4'9".
Yeah, allegedly. And she got him in a headlock and punched him in the head several times until he dropped it and got it back. That's pretty much the story. I don't see how anyone who's 4'9" could get a fully grown man in a headlock. I feel like that's one of the harder things to do. That's all the sort of strange abstract news I have. So on to, you wanted to do some future fight cards.
What about world news? Like, what's happening in the world? You know what I mean?
I think that happened in
the world. I'm convinced that the fart selling didn't happen in the world. Might have happened in some sort of purgatory.
What's with you in purgatory?
I'm just a sensitive sort of spiritual guy. I just like to think outside of the norms.
Speaking of purgatory, did you ever watch Lost?
Mm-hmm.
Did you watch the whole thing?
Yeah, I watched the whole thing. And do you remember that they said and J.J. Abrams was actually interviewed and said it's definitely not purgatory. They're not dead. And then at the end they were just all dead.
Definitely purgatory.
Yeah, and also
maybe he doesn't know what it is. Maybe that was just a fluke and a weird thing. Because remember they kept disappearing after they come to the realization. That's purgatory.
Yeah. On world news though, how's your training going?
Next question.
You still rolling?
Next question.
Rolling?
We rolling. Oh, we were going to do a segment next time we
I'm so scared of that. You want to choke me out. To get views, we were thinking that you could choke me unconscious, but I'm concerned that I might it obviously happens in jiu-jitsu a lot, but I'm just worried that I'll be the one because I Googled it and it's like you can by some freak occurrence just become a vegetable.
Have you ever Googled your symptoms on when you're sick on Google?
Yeah, but if you Google what
always
happens,
have cancer.
What happens
or
when
AIDS.
you get choked unconscious? Like one of them was like you could end up being just a full-blown vegetable, which wouldn't be great.
I've been unconscious.
You have been choked unconscious?
Yeah.
I'm pretty keen to do it, probably not now, just because I've got to drive home.
Yeah.
But
well, that's probably a good point, actually.
I don't want to
you probably you know what they say, don't choke and drive.
Did you see your life flash before your eyes or anything like that?
Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
What happened?
Lil Wayne was playing in the background.
Is that real?
Yeah.
Lil Wayne was playing?
Yeah, Lil Wayne was playing in my head. It's a little soundtrack. I was flying through a spiral. So picture this, flying through an actual spiral like you do on what they've done in movies in the past, typically old school movies where you're flying through the spiral. on one side I saw a hedge that was actually just Marge Simpson's hair. Mm-hmm. And then I came to convulsing on the ground.
Right. It's just the thing that you see when your life flashes before your eyes is Lil Wayne and Marge Simpson. What does that mean?
Well, I don't know why, but what happened was Lil Wayne was actually playing in the background.
Oh, that's not the same.
In a
playing on reality. It was actually playing on the speakers.
Actually playing, yeah.
Oh, then obviously I heard Lil Wayne on the speakers.
Yeah, but I was unconscious.
Right.
But I could still hear him.
So Marge Simpson, we don't know what that means.
Well, it wasn't Marge Simpson, it was just her hair, but it felt great.
Okay. Well, we'll park that one, but we might do that later. Not tonight, but fights coming up though. What a time to be an MMA fan, because it's essentially a small smorgasbord of fights coming up. Sorry. What a time to be an MMA fan. It's essentially a Brazilian barbecue, if you will, of all you can eat fights.
Yeah, it's churrasco.
Should we try again? What a time to be an MMA fan, because it's essentially what a time to be an MMA fan. It's a all you can eat buffet at PF Chang's. Yep. So one that I'm excited for is Yair Rodriguez versus Brian Ortega on the 16th of July.
Yes.
Stylistically, this is a really interesting fight, right? You've got two guys who are both dynamic strikers. Probably Yair is the more dynamic striker. Well, not probably, definitely. And Ortega is obviously the more decorated grappler, obviously. However, as you would have seen with the Ortega versus Korean Zombie fight, or as I like to call him, the Korean Chombi.
Why?
So Brendan Schaub, Brendan Schaub, the MMA analyst, ex-fighter.
Yeah.
He's got two kids. One of his kids is like one and can't two or something, can't say zombie, so says Chombi. So he thought it would be a great idea to get both of their heads tattooed on him as zombies. But what it looks like is both his kids as decomposed corpses. I'll put it up on the screen. It's crazy. Like he's like, he thought it was cute because he's like, it's like Chombies. But then now all I can think about is the Korean Chombi. Anyway, so on the Korean Chombi, in that fight,
take that seriously.
In that fight, Brian Ortega did land a beautiful spinning back elbow, which he apparently learnt in the locker room before the fight.
Yeah.
So obviously Ortega is a dynamic striker. He has the edge on the ground in terms of the grappling, obviously. But Yair, if you remember, has put up some amazing performances, and his last fight with Holloway was, if not breathtaking, then spectacular.
Yeah.
We're both saying it.
No, it's
look, it's one I'm really excited for. Basically, I think if they go to the ground, Yair will have his head pulled off his body. But standing, I think it's going to be really interesting. And how does Yair go stuffing takedowns and keeping Ortega away from him when it comes to any grappling exchanges?
Yeah, maybe he can use that striking to keep that distance. He might use his push kicks, his teeps. Strike from range, because he's quite a lengthy striker as well.
Yeah,
arguably more lengthy than Ortega.
To me, Yair is one of the most. I mean, Ortega is as well, but he's taken a lot of damage in his last fight. So I wonder how he's going to look now. But Yair is one of the most exciting fighters in the UFC to me.
Yeah, who do you think gets it?
I think Yair looked really, really good against Max Holloway. I think he has the potential, if he's on, to get it done. However, as I said, I'm unsure as to how he'd go if he was to grapple with Ortega. I think it would go quite badly for him. As we know, Ortega's good from almost every position. However, Ortega's taken a lot of damage, and I think in his last fight was Volkanovski his last fight?
I think so.
Well, if you remember in that fight, and certainly in the Holloway fight, he took 300 shots to the head. In the Volkanovski fight, he was out on his feet. The fight should have been stopped. He took a lot of damage. So my question would be, after those 2 5-round wars, is he the same fighter? That'd be my only kind of question there. I think it's an amazing fight between two guys who are in theory in their prime. And I think if Yair Rodriguez can get it done, he's a real contender. And I think if you look at what he did to Max Holloway in terms of, I know he lost, but but he put up a hell of a fight. If he can get through Ortega, and we presume that Volk beats Holloway, I think that Volk versus Yair Rodriguez is a very exciting fight.
That is.
That's one.
I think that's something that if Volk beats Holloway again, which by the time this is released, we'll know the answer of that. And hopefully he does, obviously, because we're massive Volk fans, being obviously Australian as well. That's a fight that needs to happen because that's somebody that he hasn't faced
exactly,
yet.
and
He's faced Holloway,
exactly.
He's faced Brian Ortega. He's proved himself. Even if he loses this weekend, he's already proved himself that he can beat him twice in a row.
And they're the fights that go towards legacy, right? A fight like, a Yair, an up and coming guy like Yair would be one to add to the legacy. I think definitely one I'd like to see. Do you remember when Yair fought BJ Penn, which was absurd? But he literally, I think at one point he left teep. Oh god, it didn't go on the carpet.
So I just want to point out that was a snap kick, not a tape.
No, but it was like a tape.
A tape you actually raised your knee.
No, it was, but then he kind of wrapped around it, and then he kicked him and then punched him at the same time.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? He kicked him in the head and punched him at the same time.
And if you think about it, Yair's been in the game for a long time.
Yeah, he's not really an up and comer per se, but he's a young-ish guy who I think has had some very difficult fights. But
he's been sort of like a Robbie Lawler because he's made that he's had a bit of time where he's laid off and then come back and arguably been better than he has before.
Yeah, definitely one I'm excited for though. And the next event that I'm excited for is UFC London, which is July 23rd at the O2 Arena. And that's going to be Curtis Blades versus Tom Aspinall. Curtis Blades versus Tom Aspinall for the main event. Jack Hermanson versus Darren Till is also on that. And then Paddy Pimblett versus Jordan Levitt. Jordan Levitt is that weird guy that twerks.
Yeah.
And he has a really weird accent. He's like,
yeah,
I predict I will destroy him.
He's very good.
He's like, I'll twerk on his grave. He's really weird. He's very good though, yeah.
Have you seen, you might have to put this up in afterwards, Paddy Pimblett has been added to UFC 4, the game, and his avatar is awful.
We're going to bring one up. Is it?
Yeah. I'll get the picture for you, send it to you, but it's got to go to see it. It's fucking hilarious.
We should also honorable mention, we should put some clips up of one of my favorite things is I think it was UFC 3 maybe, but the highlights reel of when the computer glitches and then but they actually got someone to commentate it. So it was like, and Jon Jones is levitating in the air and contorting and he's putting a hex on and they come like that and they're backwards, just stuck. It's so funny. Anyway, I digress. Also, we've got Gustafsson versus Nikita Krylov. What a banger card. Molly McCann versus Hannah Goldie. Don't know who that is. Paul Craig versus Volkanovski. That's Jacasey. That's a huge card.
Who's Paul Craig fighting?
Volkanovski. Yeah. I mean, that
is a absolute.
They're pulling out the big guns for UFC London. They did it for the last one, but I think Paddy Pimblett versus Jordan Levitt, I think, as you said, weird guy Jordan Levitt, but very good fighter. That could be one that puts Dana White in intensive care because that could really fuck up his new cash cow because that's to be honest with you, it's a surprising fight to me because it's not just a kind of, a pick'em fight for Paddy, which you would assume they would do. It's a fight that if he wins, it kind of means nothing, but if he loses, he's kind of fucked. And it's a fight he has every chance to lose, I feel like.
Yeah.
So risky fight, odd choice for the matchmakers, in my opinion. But
Sean Shelby, what are you thinking?
Well, I'm
talking to you.
No, but it's like, what do you have to gain from that? If we're going to do that, we may as well put him against someone who has a bit of a name, who the win would actually be. I just don't think the win would get him anywhere, and I think the loss would obviously fuck everything.
Yeah, but it's similar to that fight that's going to be happening this weekend. That's going to be in the past, in the future. That's watching this.
Yeah.
No, but Sean O'Malley versus Munoz.
Exactly, but
it's the same sort of thing.
Same sort of thing, but Pedro Munoz is a much bigger name. So if Sean wins, there's something to be gained from that. If Paddy beats Jordan Levitt, it doesn't really mean anything to anyone except for the
unless he beats him in a really impressive fashion, which will boost him forward.
If he fucking does a Hadouken and pulls his head off and does a fucking hex on him and snaps him in half and lights him on fire and flies out of the octagon and and just explodes into fireworks, then sure. But
seems pretty unlikely.
I don't know, man. The odds on sports bet for him doing a fucking Hadouken and then turning into a rocket ship. No, I just think it's a risky fight. But anyway, that's we'll see what happens. It's a great card. I think Tom Aspinall is a very talented heavyweight who I've been very high on, and I think has every chance of winning. However, Curtis Blades has also been on a tear. The most boring fighter in UFC history, but very talented.
Yes, but who's he fighting?
Is Curtis Blades' head actually that big, or is that just the beard? Because his head looks so big.
Yeah, but Curtis Blades is fighting Aspinall, right? I really think Aspinall has it.
No, me too. I think Aspinall has looked phenomenal in both stand-up and grappling. He's very fast for a heavyweight.
And I don't mean this in any way disrespectful at all, but Curtis Blades seems a lot slower when he talks now than he did when he started UFC. And I don't mean that in any disrespectful way, but he's taken a lot of damage.
Well, it was Blades that had the horrible knockout to Derek Lewis, right?
Yes.
Where he essentially just went completely stiff. That was like shocking. Yeah. You know, those kind of knockouts do take their toll on people, right?
Especially as a heavyweight, dude. That's a lot of force.
Yeah, exactly. So that's UFC London. Very excited for that. And I think we've probably chatted enough. But before we go, I just want to chat about UFC 277, July 30th, which is the rematch between Amanda Nunes and Juliana Pena.
Yep.
That's one I'm particularly excited for. I don't know if you've been watching The Ultimate Fighter. I've just started watching it between them.
I haven't, but I will catch up.
That's one of those fights where it's like, you know, was Pena actually amazing on the night, or was it more of a case of Nunes being really off that night? Probably a combination of the both, I think. But it's fascinating to consider the rematch because Nunes is so dominant when she's on. She looked terrible that night, to be honest with you, in my opinion. Pena, Juliana Pena did look great, and maybe she is better than I think. But I am of the opinion that if Nunes really focuses on this fight and comes in at 100%, and we see the Nunes that knocked out Chris Cyborg, I think Pena is going to be in too deep. And I especially love this fight because of what Pena said in the post-fight interview after winning the belt, that she is she's the new mum champ, but she's a real mum because she birthed her children and Nunes didn't. I think that was a real low blow, not necessary at all, considering that she'd already fucking won the belt. Nunes was very respectful up, initially.
Yeah.
Just, that made me just hate her.
I think that was bad because she said that after Nunes had been so gracious in defeat.
Yeah.
If Nunes had gone out and been like, it was a fluke, fuck that, whatever.
Exactly, yeah.
Then, it's sort of fair play because she instigated it. But after being so nice and, props off to Pena,
exactly,
she deserves this and everything, and then she just goes and rips on her more. It's just like, who the fuck's this bitch? And I hope she actually does lose because...
And I think she will if Nunes comes in and is at 100%. I think that it'll be a bad night for Pena, but, that's yet to be seen. I think that's a really exciting one.
Yeah, definitely.
The only other one on that card that I think is worth mentioning is Brandon Moreno versus Kai Kara France for the interim belt, I believe.
Super excited for this one.
Me too. I think Kai Kara France has been on an absolute tear lately, and he's someone I've been watching for a while. He had that fight with, who was that Russian guy that he was meant to lose against? Askar Askarov.
Yeah.
Right? And that was like, I didn't even think he was going to win that, and he put on a beautiful performance.
I bet on Askarov.
Yeah, beautiful performance. He's on an absolute tear. City Kickboxing, they're on fire at the moment. He trains with Volkanovski, trains with Dan Hooker, trains with Israel Adesanya. I think it's his time. Having said that, Brandon Moreno is one of the baddest men on the planet to collect Lego.
And he just always seems to surprise you as well.
Exactly.
Exactly. For example, that first fight he had with Figueiredo, obviously he lost the rematch, but he just always comes out and just seems to really not look very threatening, but is incredibly threatening.
Exactly. Yeah, I think I also personally like both of them. I think it's a great fight, both very deserving, and either person would be a great, challenge for Figueiredo, although we've seen Moreno obviously fight Figueiredo twice, I believe, already. Yeah. I would love to see Kai Kara France get that interim belt and then obviously make his way to Figueiredo. I think that'd be a phenomenal fight, both explosive fighters with a lot of power in their hands, and, he's definitely one to watch. Kai Kara France, I'm pumped for that fight.
Do you know why it's an interim belt where Figueiredo is?
I think because someone's injured. It might not be an interim belt. Maybe I made that up. I thought it was originally.
It's either an interim belt or, I mean, arguably whoever wins that will get the shot at the title.
Yeah, I thought it was an interim belt.
Just a contender fight.
It could be a contender fight. I thought it was an interim belt for some reason, but I'll have to look that up.
Because usually it says, oh no, it wouldn't say IC because that would be the interim champ, right? Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of it. There's a lot of fights happening. I think we'll need to do another episode very soon because there's just so much happening. As I said, it's essentially, to be a UFC fan or to be an MMA fan or to be a fight fan at the moment is essentially like being a pig at the trough.
Yeah, just getting it all.
It's a good time to be an MMA fan, and there's a lot coming up. And I think it'd be great to do another episode soon if you would allow me the honor of being back in your home.
Yeah, but you said we were going to set up a studio in your home.
I don't want you in my house, though.
It's weird. You invited me over in 2 days from now. And again next week.
Prove it. On that note, I'll let you go. And, it's getting late, so you might want to doze off and dream of Marge Simpson's hair and Little Wayne. And, yeah, I'll just try not to, blow over at an RBT on the way home.
What do you want to dream of on the way home?
Dream on the way home. I don't dream of anything. I try and stay awake. I try and stay awake when I'm driving. When I just pushed something. I was like, wah, wah. Well, I'll try and stay awake while I'm driving. But when I get home, I will be dreaming of, I'll be dreaming of a better future for everyone, every man, woman, child, and animal on this planet. And I just hope that we can work things out because. We shouldn't be fighting, man. It's like, just love each other, Apart from MMA, obviously that's very violent and we should keep that. But thank you.
Yeah. No, thank you.
There's a lot to look forward to. I think, being an MMA fan right now is like being a pilot in an airplane.
And we do actually have a lot of connections to some high-profile fighters, so hopefully we can actually get them on this show soon.
They don't answer my calls.
It's weird if you actually have the connections and you can't get them on the show. Does that say anything about the podcast?
Thank you, everyone. We will see you next time. Enjoy the fights, and remember to stay safe, stay clean, and stay positive.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Much appreciated.
I just told everyone to stay safe and clean.
Yeah. Wash your hands. 20 seconds thoroughly with soapy water. And also dry it afterwards because the drying is actually important.
Thanks, man. See ya.